I get up, I grab my tea, I sit down and turn up my computer.
Here
Who's
we
right
are.
there?
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you, my friend?
I am super good. It is 35 degrees. It's the first time in about 5 or 6 days above freezing, and we had a few days where it didn't get above zero. So going up and feeding horses and being outside this morning was a total delight instead of a survival process.
Well, he's Dewey Freeman in the cold. I'm Mark Sylvester at 66 degrees here in
In the
Santa
warm on the
Barbara.
ocean.
And we're the Elder Council. Good
And
morning.
I won't tell anybody that I'm really jealous or anything like that.
No, you shouldn't. You made a choice and you love your choice and you're living with your choice. And it's fantastic there. That you are the mountain man. I'm the beach guy, right? I'm the valley boy.
There you go. And Kimberly and I have a saying, and actually I will credit Kimberly with this, is something like, don't allow yourself to become a victim of your own choices.
Yeah, there you go. Well, which is we've done a show on victims, and
right.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
So, you know what I want to talk about today is that there's that old adage, practice what you preach. And part of being an elder is we preach a lot and we teach a lot.
Preach and teach.
It's kind of the nature of the job of the elder is to lead along the path. And yet, let's not forget we're on our own path and we are learning ourselves, and we are doing ourselves. And I had an opportunity this week to think about actually executing on what I teach others to do. And there was a perfect opportunity for me to actually, okay, I'm going to, we say, do this thing, and we teach how to do this thing. And then you all leave, the students all leave. And so I found myself in a situation where, I need that thing. And so I took a lesson, and because I'm not in a workshop by myself, but I allotted the time and I sat down and I did the work. And it was much harder than I thought. And it gave me an appreciation for the teacher-student dynamic that I don't ever want to forget.
Right on. So what was the difference? What's the difference between teacher and student? And I would love to speak to that, because it was 2 weekends ago that I was in Santa Barbara with you and Kimberly. And it's one of the two places where I am a student. One is was there, and one is when I do my Aikido and horsemanship.
Right.
What was the difference for you? And then,
well, let's start with an observation I made about teachers and students 35 years ago. So I was as you know, I had a computer animation company, software company, and I was in charge of the customer support because I was the guy who had a hospitality background, and I was the one who loved customers more than anything else. And so it was very logical for me to gravitate towards that part of the business. And computer animation is hard. So if you would come out.
Cannot even imagine.
It's challenging. It's, to this day, it's still hard. It hasn't gotten any easier. In fact, it's got harder. But people would fly to Santa Barbara from all over the world. Not a hard ask to say, and you get a week of training with your purchase. Okay, well, where do I sign? And they come here and get trained. And so I went through a lot of teachers, but I had one, Sandy, who was with me the longest, and Sony scooped her up, put her in charge of their training program. She was spectacular. But it was observing her that I saw that the teacher-student relationship is both sides of the same coin or either side of the same coin.
Mhm.
So a teacher, flip the coin, is now a student. Flip the coin is now a teacher. Flip the coin is now. So if you're a great student, chances are you'll be a great teacher. If
Mm,
you're a crappy student, chances are you'll be a crappy teacher.
that
If
is
you're
true.
not a student at all, like it's like, nah, I'm not into learning. Right. There's a lot of, we've met those people. For me, I'm like such a polar opposite. I was like, how can you not want to learn, young Padawan? How do you go through life that, how do you get that? Well, that person's not going to be a good teacher. And I think that teaching skills are important in work if you want to advance and being a parent and being in a relationship, but student skills are also, so it's that role reversal.
Mhm.
So that's what has come to me. So whenever I'm teaching, I'm thinking about how is that thing being received. And when I'm on the student side and I'm receiving, I'm thinking, God, how are they teaching this? Like,
Right.
is that the most efficient way, or am I getting everything? So there you go. It's a big topic for me.
What's interesting to me and what you're saying is that the concept of being a good student leading to being a good teacher, I don't think many people think about.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, I'm
and the
focusing on the odd peripherals.
well,
Again.
again, and the term that I use is, as a student, my goal is to be an honest student.
What does that mean?
If you are trying to teach something, or Kimberly, for instance, if I am sitting there going, yeah, but, well, yeah, but, or
Mm,
even if I'm not doing it out loud, if I'm doing it inside and I'm going, well, yeah, but, or I'm having a response other than curiosity and other than what can I really learn here? That's not really being honest.
right.
Now, at the end of the day, so I will refer back to my time in Santa Barbara. We were there 3 days. It was unbelievably wonderful. And as I was sharing with you a little earlier, the tentacles of what I've learned and am learning, it's permeating everything I'm doing. Um, and there were some things that I left with and went, I do have a bit of a different perspective.
Mhm.
But in being an honest student, what my goal is to fully take in everything and to, I think you and Kimberly used the phrase playful on. Is that the phrase?
Yeah. Yep.
Something like that. And my job, my role is to play fully in
Yeah.
100%. Whether or not I agree with it or disagree with it, or can I might go, oh well, my thing would be that's not being honest. My job as an honest student is to fully take in what's being offered and let that sink into me and let that basically marinate. Where as a chef, you probably do
Understood.
that of a lot.
Put a little dry rub on that.
Yeah, a little dry rub. And to let all of that sink in and integrate into my system before I go, oh, well, what about? Well, what about? Well, what about? Um, and what happens for me when that happens, when I allow myself to fully be an honest student, is everything gets to come in and marinate. And now I think has it been 2 weeks?
Yes, it is.
It's still marinating. it's still like, oh, that one little tidbit.
Mm, mm,
But
mm,
if I'm
mm, mm,
sitting there
mm.
going, when somebody is presenting, if I'm almost having an internal conversation of, well, yeah, Mark, but, or yeah, Kimberly, but, or, yeah, Alan, but, um, I'm not taking it in. I'm not being honest.
Let me add a different language to you. Yes, I 100% agree with that. And two visuals came up. One is you're not being present.
Exactly.
The committee's in business right now, right? And your committee of two, you and you,
Mhm.
are having a
Mhm.
little discussion. Meanwhile, I says, oh, the teacher's talking. Yeah, don't pay attention to her. We're talking, right? So that's happening, right?
Right.
And so you're not being you're being present with your this,
Maybe, but
right?
yes.
And I also I was thinking information incoming, shields up.
Yes.
Shields are up. We need to protect ourselves from this information. And so what happens is while you're having your committee meeting in your head, information just bouncing off you. And so you're
Right.
not getting key bits. And when you finally go, hey, let's go just check on what she's saying, shields down. She's 3 sentences down. You missed a key interlocutor. You missed a key
Mhm.
transition
Mhm.
statement. Now you're like, oh, we got to catch up. Oh, let's go back to the tape. Oh, there's no tape. It's to
Mhm.
that point. And I think also what happens in the marinating and the reflecting back on any lesson, you're like, oh, okay, and if you're again, I believe if you're truly immersed, it takes that class really should be 5 days long, but people can't take 5 days out of their life because the things start firing. The aha moments are about 37 hours in. You're like,
Right.
oh, because you've freely immersed yourself, and now you're really letting all that stuff take over. Committee, you guys go take a break. We're going to be paying attention now because guess what? It's all new. That's the
Right.
part of it, right? Is so you have a bit of a fear. What's all this new stuff? I don't know any of this. Yeah, Nimrod, you don't know it. That's why you're in a class. That's why you're being a student right now. So check your I know better than anybody else bullshit and say,
Right.
I don't know anything. Right? What does she say? You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Right. In my world, we call that beginner's mind.
100%. Yep. Yep.
And um,
Why don't you, for the people who don't live in our worlds, explain what beginner's mind is?
great question. Actually, where I learned about beginner's mind is in Buddhism.
Yeah.
And the
And by the way, beginner's mind is not religious. So anybody who's listening, as soon as they hear that, they go, ooh, shields are starting to go up.
yeah, here come the shield. Yeah, beginner's mind has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with a perspective of how you view the world. And beginner's mind is actually the process of creating an opening emotionally, intellectually, energetically to learn as if you're a beginner in any kind of a process. The reason for that is what happens is that when we have an experience, and both you and I have literally decades of experience doing whatever we've been doing, and when information comes in, we have a choice of having that information come in and go through all of our filters. And when it comes out the other end of all of our layers and filters, we might get a little tad of something. That's the opposite of beginner's mind. beginner's mind is allowing information to come in the most pure way that at any given moment you can allow that. And it's literally having it come in and not go through your filters and go, oh, this person said that, this person demonstrated that. When this happened, this is how I felt. And it's literally allowing that information to come in without judgment.
So I painted a whole picture when you just said that.
I want to see your picture.
Well, one picture was I was really into interesting waters for a while. And there are some waters you can get from the Dakotas that have been filtered through, tons and tons and tons or miles of rock, right? And what comes out at the very end is the purest water, so they say. So it's been filtered. Everything has been filtered out of it, right? That was one vision. The first visual that hit me was like, I have all of this stuff. It's kind of like if you've ever seen cold brew coffee, there's a distillation thing. So we're distilling, right? And it's not filtered, it's just getting everything out except that one drop. So that was one visual that hit me. And to a point, if I go to any learning experience, I'm always looking, is there a drop or two? Did I get a drop or two from that? Because those drops are going to be just gold, and I will save and collect those drops. That's a way. The other thing that got me that I thought was interesting is when I search for something in Google, I'm looking for a specific thing, happening to be helping my father-in-law find a new dresser. Okay. He's not a fan of going onto the Google and looking and doing all that. He'd rather go and touch, right? I want to see. So I type in, go in, show me dressers. I now have 14,000 dressers to look at. To your point, there's no filter. These are all the dressers. So one thing I can do is just kind of page through. Now, by the way, Google has filtered it for me, but we'll ignore that for a second. It's, it might be showing me the ones that someone paid for me to see or someone, whatever, but let's ignore that. So if I'm just looking through this, again, honestly, I'm going to become a student of dressers. Oh, there's 4 drawers. Oh, there's 6 drawers. Or there's different kinds of woods. There's tall ones, there's skinny ones, there's narrow ones. Blah, 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 blah. I go, oh, I didn't even know I might like that one. I hadn't even thought of that one. Oh, look at that. Or that's beginner's mind. I'm beginning my study of dressers.
Right.
To over on the right side of the screen is all my filters. Oh, well, do you want pine or oak or ash, or do you want light wood or dark wood? Do you want, and what happens, it takes the 14,000 down to 20.
Right.
And I filtered out all the possibilities. Is that an agreeable analogy to you, sir?
Yeah, yes. If we start only with, say, 20, then our choices end up being limited. After we are an honest student and we take everything in, and let's say we have 100 pieces of information, we get to choose from 100 pieces of information. If we filter it before we do something, before we do anything with it, we might only get to choose between 3 pieces of information.
Right.
Let me throw in another piece here. And I love your analogy. And it's like, and I do think it's worth mentioning that, yes, for instance, in Google, maybe there are pre-filters in it, and maybe we're seeing dressers that someone has paid for. What we also need to know is that no matter who is teaching whatever they're teaching, they have their own filters.
Oh, 100%.
And allowing ourselves to be an honest student is also allowing ourselves to see those filters, which is totally fine. It's like, okay, well, that's an interesting perspective, and that's an interesting perspective. The more that we can do to take all of that in without judging, the better off we are. Here's the other thing that I want to throw in here. We're going to get a little scientific here.
Excellent. You are actually legally qualified to be scientific.
That'd be true, at least in some areas. We have a system of nerves that look like branches of a tree called dendrites in our brain. Every time we learn something new, we increase the number of dendrites that are literally forming and growing in our brain.
What?
Yes.
Is that age independent?
Completely age independent.
No
Completely.
kidding.
Completely.
Okay. Breaking news.
Breaking news. We can be 3 or we can be 68 or 71, and dendrites will grow in our brain.
Wow.
Here's what's really cool about that is when we take in information, even like our discussion this morning, over the next 24 to 36 hours, our brains will grow dendrites based on what is happening right now.
Wow.
Let me give an example of this. Many of us we were, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, or we have children or grandchildren that are 6 or 7, trying to learn, trying to learn how to ride a bicycle without training wheels. And, maybe this little person has been out, we're like running along with them and catching them. And maybe, we've been working with them for a couple of days. And at the end of the second day, they're still falling, and they're frustrated. And the little person goes, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." And I mean, I'm sure everyone's experienced that either personally or with
Sure.
a sibling, a son, a daughter, a grandson, a granddaughter.
Not limited to 6-year-olds.
Not limited to 6-year-olds. But for this example, let's leave it at 6. When that little person, say at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, they throw a little fit and they go, "I can't do this." And we go, "Okay." And we get them off their bicycle. We go in and eat. We give them a little bath and let them go to bed. And in the morning, they get up and go, we go, "Do you want to try again?" And they go, "Okay, I will." And then they go get on the bike and ride. Here's what has happened is from the night before, their brain has been creating dendrites and their brain has been learning how to ride a bicycle without them doing it. Their body, in our bodies, we go through all of these processes, and then our brains, when we get what's called relief, meaning a rest from it, a break from it, our dendrites and our brain is actually putting all of that stuff together. And if anyone wants to go look this up, you can go look it up. We actually have.
Well, people stopped listening to us a few minutes ago. They hit the pause button and they've been Googling dendrites. It's a trending topic right now.
It might be. But all these little branches of nerve endings are growing to put together the process of being able to ride a bike. So even though this little person spent maybe an hour trying to learn to ride a bike, after they get off and they have their dinner and their little bath and they go to bed, their brain has been learning all night how to ride a bicycle. And they get up in the next morning and they go, "Oh, I can ride a bike. Look at me." Because we learn after we learn.
That that right there is a t-shirt. We learn after we learn.
Right.
So two things come to mind immediately. Well, more than two, but two that I want to articulate. One is we're both martial artists, and we both have had to prepare for milestone tests as we get a belt, or as we pass to the next level,
Mhm.
however it is. And we're in my world, we were taught to visualize the whole test. So I have sat and
Mhm.
meditated and gone
Mhm.
through the entire test in my head, and I've gone through all of those things. It is, and even though you don't physically do the thing, does that act of, here's the question, does the act of visualizing that thing actually promote dendrite growth?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And and here's the coolest thing about all of this. This is the wraparound back to beginner's mind. If we are learning something and we have a wide opening, we create a large opening for information to come in. As everything is processing, we create more dendrites. Our brain automatically integrates all of the material. If we come in and we don't have a beginner's mind and we're going, well, yes, Mark, but yes, but
Yes.
well, here's my opinion. Well, we're taking in much less information. Therefore, we literally, our brains cannot create
Work with.
dendrites.
Yeah.
There's a lot less to work with. When we visualize, and this is wrapping back around to what you're saying, our brains will actually train our bodies how to do certain movements.
I believe that 10,000%.
And whether it's martial arts or if you watch
Huh.
like a skier above at the top of a ski race where, they visualizing the course and before they're even going, they're going.
You can see them, right? Just watching
Right,
the Olympics, you could see them doing
right.
that.
You can see that,
Yeah.
and that transfers into what goes on in our body. The same way with riding horses. I actually will visualize where I'm going and how I'm sitting and what's going to happen. And it works.
We do that almost every time we go into a high stakes conversation. Kimberly and I talk about that every day, literally every day. What are the high stakes interactions that are on the docket for the day? There's a business development with this one. There's a critical point in the lesson on this one. There's a whatever that is. What are the high stakes thing that's going to happen? And then we say, what do you want the outcome to be? Exactly. What's the intentionality? So to your point is I want to get down in 47.3 seconds. I want to do whatever that thing is. And so to your point, what we've been unconsciously competent at creating dendrite free growth, or a way, we're just creating, to your point, creating an opening for our brain to do the work it needs to do subconsciously, so that when we are consciously in that situation, we've prepared ourselves. Did I get all that right, Doc?
100%.
Wow.
So when we go in with that beginner's mind, our brain goes, thank you. Because that our beginner's mind allows us to work and operate the way that we're designed to work and operate.
So let's stay with the physics, because there's you're familiar with what an fMRI is. So we know what an MRI is.
Oh, right. Oh, okay, got it.
We know. So tell the listener what an fMRI is.
I'm not that familiar with that.
So where I've seen it used, it's where they can measure the it's a frequency MRI, and they can do it with the brain.
Oh,
How here
they're
at
actually measuring the electrical
bingo,
impulses.
bingo. And here at the university, they have at the University of Southern California, Santa Barbara, they have something called the allosphere, ALLO sphere. Google it. There's a great TED talk that Professor Morin gave. And it's a 360-degree dome, and they'll put MRI data in that, and the scientists can explore it because there's it's a dome. It's 75 feet tall, and there's a bridge in the middle of it, and you walk in the bridge, and you have goggles on, and you can, just go and explore. So, do dendrites show up in that visualization?
You mean if someone does an fMRI?
Here's what I'm thinking. So there a dendrite is a thing, it exists. So now that I'm Mr. Curious, I want to go see my dendrites. Okay. And then I want to, here's where I would, is like, do I have can you run out of room for the dendrites to grow?
Actually, a good question. The answer is no.
Oh, thank God. Because I'd be done.
Because we'd be done. So here's the truth. I do not know how. I've seen pictures of brains with sparse dendrites and brains with like incredibly dense dendrites. Truth is, I don't know exactly how they got those pictures.
I am going to put myself on a little mission to figure that out, because
it is well worth it.
What I love about our conversations, and I love when you root something in science, because when something, for personally speaking, when something is rooted in science, my believability, my trust in the information index goes way up. Like, exactly. Goes way up. It's like, okay, that's science, as opposed to a woo-woo, more of a, when we've all been around that kind of thing, it's just, well, no, I trust but verify.
Right. No, right. Totally.
So I want to bring it back to this: practice what you, I'm going to change it. Practice what you teach.
This is the first thing that crossed my mind. If I teach authenticity, if I'm talking to someone in regards to them, asking them to become more authentic, if I am not authentic, then I'm a fraud. If I ask somebody to get into their bodies more and move, if I'm completely out of shape and eat horrible food and I don't move myself, then I'm a fraud. If I ask somebody to really look at their drinking, for instance, and I'm not looking at that myself, which for the record, I don't drink, but if I'm not looking at that myself, then I'm a fraud. Now my dendrites are like exploding up here. This goes all the way back to some of our earlier conversations about authenticity versus attachment. People will learn from us. People will have the trust to have beginner's mind if we practice what we teach.
the awareness, one of the things I will confess is doing this show on a regular basis enforces all of that in me, right? It's
Yes.
an opportunity for me. We've talked about opportunity to train, right? One of my senseis was like, everything in life was an opportunity to train. So, these lessons that we talk about, there's just a heightened awareness for me.
Mhm.
In fact, I saw in the nation, one of our listeners has been listening to every single one of the episodes.
Really?
He's going to explode. He's going to explode. Because there's new people coming to the nation all the time, and they see us and they go into the back catalog and they start listening to things. What hit me was there was a very distinct moment around 10:30 yesterday morning when I'm working on my stories, and I thought, I'm doing the work right now. It was very conscious. Oh, you're doing the work now. You're not
Yes.
teaching someone to do the work. You're not talking about doing the work. You're doing the work. And then it was almost out of body to be that observational and say, what does this feel like to do the work? So that I could, the next time this is taught, or I'm in the process of teaching it, I can say, this is where you're going to get stuck. This is where you may get stuck. I'm not an absolutist.
Right. Got it.
Because you may get stuck. That will be a running joke for the rest of our lives, my friend.
Well, part of what we can at least come close to being absolute about is that you will get stuck somewhere.
Yeah. You will get. Oh, and I battled the resistance demon all day long.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah. Because resistance shows up in a lot of different ways, in distraction, in the watch, in a fucking bird flies by. Oh, is there enough bird food? Oh, I better go check the bird food. I said, no, you made a choice to sit down today, and today was the day you're going to work in your story journal, and you're going to do the work of laying all that out. That was a choice I made. No one told me to do that. It was me made that decision. And I thought it was fascinating that when you actually sit down to do the work, all the shit that you teach other people happens to you. And I honestly believe this goes back to the teacher-student dynamic. As a teacher, if I can feel what it feels like to be a student, I believe I'll be a better teacher.
Absolutely. Can I wrap back around to the resistance piece?
Of course.
Question. Were you being resistant, or were you protecting something in yourself?
Not protecting, for sure. I was writing is hard. Okay, straight up, writing is hard because it's a solo adventure, and you can distract yourself in 800,000 ways. I went through 1,000 of them yesterday. and I was very aware, because I said, this work I did, I got 6 pages done. Maybe an hour had I sat down and just done it, just maybe an hour. Took me all day. And I didn't want to judge myself. I didn't want to say, hey, had you gotten that done in an hour, you could have gotten these other things done. You could have, like, I'm in charge of all that. I make those choices. And I just thought, imagine how hard it is, because I'm semi-retired. I do have control of my own time, so I had the luxury of resistance or distraction or whatever. How hard is it for the people I work with who have very busy lives and young kids and work and relationship, all those worlds colliding, when they want to tear off a chunk of time to have an intellectual pursuit like writing? How tremendously challenging that is, which instantly went to, can I find ways to help them be more productive by experiencing this myself?
Were you able to do that?
I don't
Find
know.
those ways?
I don't know yet.
Well, let me
I
throw.
think I want to hear this. It Having the experience myself makes me more empathetic when I talk to someone that says, I didn't have time to get to that. I feel, they'll say, you can tell they feel like they let me down, that they didn't do the work. And they don't need to, I know. And now I get it. I'm very, very, very poignant realization for me.
When we allow ourselves to do what you did, and we are then able to go, yeah, I do have empathy for this other person. In my world, I see that as a way to be protective of we're actually allowing ourselves to help protect another person from their self-judgment.
Okay. I get that.
If I can say to you, or you can say to me, yeah, I get that you didn't have time. Let's work on it now, for instance, whatever. That bypasses all of the, I let you down, I'm not good enough, I'm not a writer, I'm not blah, 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 blah. That level of empathy for another allows a protective process to happen, so that other person is not judging themselves. So that other person, when we judge ourselves, that is a way to stop what's happening.
100%.
And it allows us to be protective so that another person may move forward. If we can look at things that way, as a teacher, for instance, we allow our students to become a learner versus just a student. We allow our partners to take a breath and continue to enter into relationship with us and make contact. We allow little kids to grow up with much less self-judgment. If we can come in with that level of empathy and go, yeah, this is tough. I struggled with it too. And I know you well enough, Mark. I mean, you are an incredibly creative, imaginative person. And I can actually visualize you being maybe even in that chair going, okay, I'm writing. Oh, there's the bird. Writing. Oh, here comes my writing. Oh, I gotta get, I can see it. And I could come in and go, which please know that this doesn't happen. But I could come in and go, wow, you took 8 hours to write 6 pages. I mean, heck, that's, hour and a half a page. Or I can go, allow myself inside to go, yeah, I'm doing, the pages piece in the morning, and I'm going, this morning I was like, about 200 words, and I was going, okay, what else am I going to say here? I might need to hurry up and go feed the horses. And because if I can allow that with you, then I can begin allowing that with myself and go. And if I sit there and go, what am I protecting by this little impasse that I have? And it's like, if I go, well, I'm protecting not saying something in particular, or I'm protecting not being authentic, or I'm protecting my own self from my own judgment. And that's at least a possibility of a way to look at this.
Mr. Dewey Freeman, we've done it again. Started with a little nugget, just went.
Yeah, I
but
love
then
that.
you brought it down and you landed it so nicely. I sure appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate you.